Hi, welcome to the garden. I am Abby, the kitchen gardener, and I just wanted to show you what we've been up to here lately. This kitchen garden is used for the field school, in which we teach our students how to grow food organically and with regenerative alternative methods. We also use this as a way to teach students how to take food out of the garden and into the kitchen. We will be providing culinary lessons to help the student bridge that gap between what we get on the land and what ends up on your plate. Our curriculum will also go throughout the season focusing on compost as well as continued mulching. And at the end of the year, seed saving, which is an excellent, my favorite part of the curriculum. In fact, we have some red amaranth here in our Three Sisters plot that was saved from seeds that we gathered back in the 2020 kitchen garden. So some of these seedlings of the red amaranth are 2, 3, 4th generation, which is really super cool. So this is just a little bit that we're doing here, and I hope you guys stick around so I can show you some more. One of our focuses this year is companion planting. There are several things to consider when we talk about companion planting. First of all, are they going to compete for resources such as sunlight and water? One plant may grow tall and fill out higher up, whereas one plant may grow low and provide nice ground cover for the other tall plant around it. One may need more water and the other may not have to compete for as much of that in the soil. Another more important factor is if a plant has what's called allelopathic properties. Plants that do this put out compounds into the soil through various parts of their tissue. And these are actually going to stop other plants from growing properly or stunting their growth altogether. Three Sisters is a wonderful example of companion planting. It is a very old tradition originating in Central America and moving up to North America, carried on by the Iroquois and natives right here, the Ho-Chunk. This is a practice, like I said, that has gone on for a long time, tried and true, and I will tell you why, because it's pretty cool. So first of all, we plant the corn. This is the first thing that goes in the ground. And the corn is going to provide a very strong stalk for our beans to grow on. Beans are the second sister. Beans we just planted. You don't want to get to them too soon because otherwise the corn won't be big enough for them to crawl up on. So we just put our beans in here. Just make sure that they are climbing beans, pole beans, not bush beans. And I'll tell you why these two work so well together. The corn provides the structure for the beans, but the corn is also very, very needy of nitrogen. They are big nitrogen feeders and really need a lot to grow big and strong. The beans are in the legume family. Legumes in general are what are called nitrogen fixers, and they will actually make more nitrogen available in the soil for this corn to stay happy. So those two work together and help each other. That is a very common companionship. Our third sister, which you will see in very little babies around the edge of our mound, and as well as some much larger ones taking over on this side. And these are our squash. Squash is the third sister. What squash primarily does is provide a nice ground cover for us. Ground cover will help with moisture retention, as well as keeping the soil cool on these super hot days. One other thing to mention about our Three Sisters is we not only have 3 sisters here, but 6. This first one, our 4th sister, is sunflower. Sunflower is a very common companion plant for the 3 sisters. And then our 5th and 6th sisters are these beautiful red amaranth, as well as a native pigweed, which is our green amaranth right here. Now pigweed is often a very troublesome weed in gardens, and we certainly don't want too many to grow. But because they are an amaranth, we wanted to incorporate them as a sister here in the garden. And when the red and green amaranth grow up, they will get super tall and have these beautiful purple clusters. Of course, the pigweed, the green amaranth, will have golden clusters, and they will just help wall in this area. So like I said, this is our Q1 plot where we have not only 3 sisters, but actually 6 sisters growing. Over here we have carrots as well as tomatoes, basil, and bush zucchini. We also have some zucchinis that we started from seed that are growing along the outer side, and they need a little bit more shade, so we put them behind our pallet trellises. You can see we have some basil here, which is a very common companion plant for tomatoes. They will help repel common tomato pests, as well as provide a wonderful recipe for you later on in the season. We'll be making some bruschetta for sure. Then down here we have a wonderful herb bed, as well as some greens and some beets that we are growing. Our herbs will help repel pests that are coming in from the native field right here, an old cover crop. We also have some beautiful cucumbers that are just thriving at the end. Cucumbers will actually keep climbing if you let them. In these 2 rows, we have focused on floating row covers. This is a common way to help plants from getting too much direct heavy sun. It also helps plants that are prone to pests. And it also helps protect our plants from heavy rains, which we have been having a lot of. So it's been a very good thing that we have had these on our crops. Over here, we have our Swedish Swenson snap peas. And this is actually a pea trellis that our student made for us, which is wonderful, and it's holding up pretty well. We have a couple places that we need to repair, but with this kind of trellis, it is very inexpensive to go in and just snip those squares together. No need to go out and buy a full net when you can make your own. This is the way to do it, folks. Cheap and easy. All right, now 2 of my favorite rows right here. We're gonna go to the kale. We have 2 different kinds of kale here, folks. There is Toscano kale and green curly kale. Now, Toscano kale is very similar to lacinato kale. A lot of people will call it dinosaur kale, as you can tell by the way it is. Our green curly kale right here is just gorgeous right now. And when we come up and pick the under leaves and harvest them as it gets bigger, this will continue to shoot up from this beautiful rosette in the middle. And that's gonna keep growing taller, and we can keep harvesting this throughout the season, which is really great. Kale is also extremely nutrient dense and has a lot of fiber. So it's one of my favorites in the garden. It's really good for you. It's also in the brassica family, so do be mindful of where you place it next to other brassicas. Any cauliflower, broccoli, things of that nature, just make sure you give them a lot of space so that if one pest infests another, it doesn't jump to your kale and ruin them as well. We have lots of dill, another companion plant that we have interspersed in here. Dill repels, as well as brings in a lot of predatory insects that are going to take care of our pests naturally for us. Natural enemies are a good friend. So when you see a bug in the garden, check it out first and make sure it's not going to do good for you instead of harm. 90% of the bugs you see in your garden are probably good. Nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are another companion plant that we have utilized in both the kale and the pepper rows. Nasturtiums will just explode on you, which is wonderful because they're edible and super tasty. They have a really light peppery flavor to them, and you can really pick off any stem you want, and the stems have a nice snap to them too. And the flowers, you want to come in and deadhead these old ones. The more you do that, the more big beautiful ones it's going to produce. And this guy's ready to go right here. So what I would do is plop him off, and then I would put him in cool water right away so he stays fresh. And I'm going to keep him that way in the cool water until I get him in the kitchen. And then he can be transported onto a plate for some beautiful meal. So that's nasturtiums. The other cool thing about nasturtiums is they are actually a trap plant. So some companion plants are going to work by repelling pests. Other plants that are companions are going to work by bringing in those predatory natural enemies that we want to take care of the pests for us. And then there are some companion plants like nasturtium that act as trap plants, where they actually bring those pests into them. They want to be on the nasturtium more than they want to be on the stuff that they're eating that we don't want them on. So nasturtiums, a very good companion plant. Marigold, of course, we have plenty of these all around the garden. Marigold are a perfect companion plant for repelling a broad range of pests. They have a very strong smell. They can also be harvested like the nasturtium when the flowers come up and get full. And this actually makes a wonderful tea, marigold tea. It is a little strong, so I don't steep it for very long, but it does have that same strong aroma. If you've ever rubbed a marigold between your fingers, you know that smell because it'll stay on your hands for the rest of the day. So marigolds, another lovely companion plant that we can use in multiple ways. And then over here, we have pepper plants, red bell peppers, as well as parsley. And these are all planted together to complement each other. Nasturtiums are going to trap, and the parsley and peppers are not going to compete for water. The dill is going to be another plant to come in and repel pests. And that is pretty much the process we're going for. Everything is kind of planted to either benefit each other or have enough distance to not harm each other. One thing we didn't mention was plants that are allelopathic. Now, allelopathic plants are plants that emit substances that will harm the growth of other plants. Fennel actually is somewhat allelopathic, which is why we have it over there with the herbs. Probably the biggest example you're going to see out in nature of allelopathy is black walnut. If you've ever heard of jugalone, the compound in black walnut that makes it very hard for gardeners to grow under black walnut trees, that is because of jugalone, the compound that black walnuts put out. So that's another example of allelopathy. So when you're planning your companion planting and what you're going to put next to each other, another thing to consider besides the benefits is, again, what is going to harm or help. In this case, the fennel is not going to help, so we put it way over there.